This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. We turn now to look at the fallout from Saturday's violent white supremacist protests in Charlottesville, Virginia, where a 20-year-old Nazi sympathizer killed one anti-racist activist and injured more than a dozen others when he intentionally drove his car through a crowd of counter-protesters. On Monday, the driver of the car, James Fields, appeared in court for the first time. President Trump initially failed to directly blame white supremacists for the bloodshed in Charlottesville, saying the violence was committed by, quote, many sides. On Monday, amidst growing street and corporate protests, Trump finally condemned the deadly white supremacist violence.
As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
That was President Trump speaking on Monday. Meanwhile, Foreign Policy has revealed the existence of a recent FBI and Department of Homeland Security bulletin that concluded white supremacist groups were, quote, responsible for 49 homicides and 26 attacks from 2000 to 2016, more than any other domestic extremist movement, unquote. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security report went on to state, quote, racial minorities have been the primary victims of white supremacist violence. The second most common victims were other Caucasians and other white supremacists perceived that other white supremacists perceived as disloyal to the white supremacist extremist movement.
Despite the FBI and Department of Homeland Security findings, the Trump administration recently cut funds to organizations dedicated to fighting right-wing violence. Well, as the nation grapples with what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, we turn now to the best-selling author Ta-Nehisi Coates, the national correspondent for The Atlantic, where he writes about culture, politics, and social issues. He's the author of Between the World and Me, which won the 2015 National Book Award for nonfiction, and the author of the forthcoming book titled We Were 8 Years in Power, An American Tragedy. Ta-Nehisi, it's great to spend this hour with you. I want to start by asking your response to what happened in Charlottesville and then to President Trump's actions in response.
My response is that it's predictable. You had 8 years before President Trump, a situation where the opposition party basically ran in opposition to the president on a platform of thinly based racism. That doesn't mean that the politicians themselves were outright racist, but when charges of birtherism came up, no one repudiated it. When the House Majority Leader at the time, John Boehner, claimed that the president had never worked a real job, no one repudiated it. When Newt Gingrich called the President of the United States a food stamp president, no one repudiated it. And so you found yourself in a situation in the 2016 election where all of that hate and all of that racism had been stoked at the party's base. And so the idea that President Trump, or that Donald Trump would then become president, that he would become the winning candidate is not surprising at all. And that Trump himself, who was a stoker of birtherism, who has this long history of racism himself, going back to the 1970s when he was accused of housing discrimination, into the 1990s when he called for the death penalty for the Central Park Five, who were later exonerated. In the 1990s when he claimed that he didn't want black people counting his money at his casinos, that person, that figure, that political figure, would then use that same energy that was in the party to become president, and the reaction would be violence, is predictable. It's lamentable, but it's predictable, and no one should be surprised.
Well, I wanted to ask you, with this Unite the Right rally and the resurgence now of white supremacists publicly throughout the country, largely under the symbolic protest against the taking down of these various Confederate monuments and statues around the country, your sense of how this the saving of these Confederate statues becomes the rallying call of this supremacist movement?
Well, it makes sense. I mean, the Civil War was the most lethal war in American history. The casualties in the Civil War amount to more than all other wars, all other American wars combined. More people died in that war than World War II, World War I, Vietnam, et cetera. And that was a war for white supremacy. It was a war to erect a state in which the basis of it was the enslavement of black people. And so that, these forces that, I discussed that, really, bubbled from the base of the Republican Party and that Trump nakedly activated would then rally around the cause of the Confederacy makes complete sense.
We're going to break and then come back to this discussion with Ta-Nehisi Coates, national correspondent for The Atlantic, where he writes about culture, politics, and social issues. His forthcoming book will be out in October. It's titled "We Were 8 Years in Power, An American Tragedy." This is Democracy Now! We'll be back with Ta-Nehisi in a minute.